Hello everyone, it's your boy, the late Lord Haven. I'm back again. Today we'll be doing a House Royce live stream, which is to say I'm going to be going through one of those commentary tracks. Oh, hold on. My own audio is playing out my phone, hold on. One monitor, so I'm looking at the chat on my phone. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going back to what I do with my animated videos, which is I sort of play them through and do a little bit of commentary, talk a bit more about House Royce, add some new info, talk about the, behind the scenes process of making these kind of videos, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, let's begin. Let's get into it. Actually, no, let's wait for some people to hop in. Let's wait for a few more people to jump in. After this stream, in the next week, there'll probably be a House Royce iceberg theory stream, because you guys are a big fan of the iceberg theory ones. And I might do a few more sigil ranking. Those have been really successful, so it seems like you lot like ranking. I guess it's very opinionated, right? So people like to say their piece. Oh, hi Quinn. Quinn the GM is in the chat. Hello Quinn. I don't know if he's still in or whether he just popped in. I told him I was I told him I was like 7 minutes late to my own live stream. So what did you think about my Royce video before we get started and start talking about all things bronze? What did you think? Did you enjoy it? Did you not like it? Another interesting fact, I've decided to change up a bunch of my thumbnails. So yeah, sorry, I'm a bit all over the place today. This isn't going to be a super eloquent live stream. I think this is going to be a bit more scatterbrained. But yeah, I decided to revamp a bunch of my live streams today. Sorry, a bunch of my thumbnails today. The animated ones in particular. I thought it's because I did my sigil ranking and it was successful, and I was like, yeah, YouTube videos with like sigils in the thumbnails do really well. And then I thought, why have I not just been doing that for all of my Song of Ice and Fire videos? So naturally I've gone back and like the Bolton one, I've added the Bolton sigil. Tyrell, I've added the Tyrell sigil. I've changed around the saturation and the contrast a bit just to make it pop a bit more, make it look cleaner, more professional. And I think it's worked out a lot. Because this Royce one was the first time I properly put like the sigil behind the characters, behind the text. And I think, and it's doing quite successfully. It's one of my top 3 or 4 viewed videos within this time frame. And it's like, well, if you don't know my channel and you're just going through YouTube and then you see a thumbnail with a couple of cartoon characters staring at each other, you're not gonna be like, that must be Game of Thrones. You're just gonna be like, what the fuck is this, and move on. But when you see a sigil, boom. Miranda should have been in it, someone asked. Miranda isn't in it. So Miranda Royce, and we'll dive into this maybe when we go into this video, but Miranda Royce belongs to a junior cadet branch of House Royce, which is currently known as the Royces of the Gates of the Moon, because Littlefinger gives them command of the Gates of the Moon, which is, and we'll talk about that a bit later. But the Royces of the Gates of the Moon belong to why did someone say Femboy Haven? Anyway, the Gates of the Moon, yeah, that cadet branch, I talk about them in the extended version of this House Royce video, which is on my Patreon. It's a special treat for my patrons. Hi Minnie, you started just in time for your lunch. Awesome. Theory, the runes of Royce's armor are total gibberish. That's fun. Before we do get started, if you can't see anything, it's a black screen because because we're about to start the video. But before we get started, we do have a super chat from Lala Loopsy. Thank you very much. Who says, I can't catch the stream, but I just wanted to say your Art of the Eerie might be my favourite of yours. Thank you very much. I'll listen to this later tonight. Love you, my sultry British man. Love you too, Loopsy. Even if you are insufferable. One of my patrons. Yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, the Eerie art is traced from Ted Naismith. Ted Naismith art. My bad. So how I make my backgrounds is I either make them from scratch, or I find real life things and trace over them, or I find real life art and then kind of trace over it and adjust it and do my own thing with it. So it's kind of a mixture. But anyway, another super chat from Coleshot, then I'll quickly move on to the video. Coleshot says, Late Lord Haven and Haven Hill the Forgetful. I think Late Lord Haven has a better ring to it. It's got a better flow, Late Lord Haven. Anyway, my envy for the patrons grows larger. You can join at any time, my man. I've got extra things for them because obviously they're helping to support the channel financially, so you know. But if you don't want to support the channel financially, if you just want to like and subscribe, that's all I need. You're all amazing fans, regardless. Let's go. And if you have any questions or theories or anything you desperately want me to answer, feel free to send me a super chat. If anything else in the chat sort of stands out to me, I will answer it, but I'm prioritising the super chats. Okay, let's begin. A grizzled lord, a knight of the Rainbow Guard, a ranger of the Night's Watch. Who are the former bronze kings of the Vale? So, as I often say, at the start of these videos, it's a deliberate tactic I do where I ask a question at the start. A question that will be answered later on in the video, right? Because when you look at the analytics for YouTube, it like dives off a cliff in the first few seconds, where sometimes it plays when you haven't opened it, it automatically plays, you scroll through, or people are just clicking on random videos because they're bored and they move on. So you need to capture them in like the first few seconds, or else boom, right? It can go down and down. So the first thing I try and do is a grizzled. So first off, movement, popping, the table in the background, slide in, House Royce comes up, and then I throw in some intriguing stuff. So there's variety here. A grizzled lord, a member of the Night's Watch, member of the Rainbow Guard. And you're like, oh, what's this? And then I go on to ask a question. Lord, a knight of the Rainbow Guard, a ranger of the Night's Watch. Who are the former bronze kings of the Vale? Yes, and so it's who are the former bronze kings of the Vale? What are they doing in the main book series? You're going to find out, and so then that gives the incentive for people to stay. If you're just saying, I'm going to talk about House Royce, then people will be like, okay, sure, then might click off. But if you ask deliberate questions, and you tease that they will be answered, then boom, that's how you have. That's why videos with questions as the titles are more successful, right? So like my highest viewed video is Where are the High Towers in Game of Thrones, because it's a question and people want the question to be answered. Now a lot of my titles aren't questions because I prefer just the history of X as like sort of like a branding thing, but yeah, let's move on. And what is their current role in the Song of Ice and Fire? This is the history of House Royce. The Royces are powerful bannermen of House Arrow. Oh, another thing you may have noticed, which is a bit different about this video, in the meta, so we're going to explore the meta as well as diving into the lore here, is that usually at the start I do my little question, then I dive into thanks for watching, like and subscribe if you want, blah blah. But this I decided to experiment. I decided to not have a bit at the beginning, telling people to subscribe and so on. I've left that purely at the end. I will see if that affects, and I'm going to check my analytics later, like in a few days, and see if it affects subscriber count, watch time, blah blah blah, whether it's worth doing or not. In the Vale. They rule over the castle of Runestone and own several ports, refusing to rely on the southern port city of Goldtown for trade. They claim descent from an ancient line of First Men kings. So yeah, I've drawn them here with the classic runic armor. So First Men are described as using bronze. So they have bronze armor, they have bronze swords. For the Royces, they've kept their armor. It's ancestral. They pass it down from generation to generation, and there's more than one set. There are multiple sets, and they're engraved with runes. And there's all kind of theories about why that is. Like, could it be ancient First Man runes that defend against the children of the forest or even the White Walkers, or is it meant to be a kind of meaningless, superstitious thing that has no actual benefit? Because it's often stated that many Royces wear the runic armor, but because it makes them invincible, right? They're invulnerable, but they end up being killed in battle and so on wearing it. So maybe it has one specific purpose, like the White Walkers, the others, or maybe it's just meant to be a kind of like a fun idea, this epic heraldic armor which doesn't really do anything, but it's the myth of it that's exciting. And of course the kings would wear runic crowns, so I threw in some made up runes there. I think they look quite cool. And I saw some people in the chat asking about the visual design of the Royces, where I've given them all grey eyes. So Bronze Jon is described as having grey eyes for sure. His children, their eyes are never described. I believe the junior branch, let me double check. The Royces of the Gate of the Moon, are their eyes described? I know Miranda Royce is described as having brown eyes. Let's have a look. Nestor's eyes aren't described. Okay, so Bronze Yohn is described as having grey eyes, and the Starks are also described as having grey eyes, right? And then the Boltons have pale eyes. So I think this sort of... Oh, and the Karstarks have grey eyes too, so I think it's meant to be a kind of a first man trait, is how I see it. I don't think any Andal houses, Andal descendants are ever described as having grey eyes. It's Starks, Karstarks, Royces. It's these powerful ancient first man families, so I think it's a first man thing. And besides, Walder Frey's first wife, because we got to bring it back to the Freys, of course. Walder Frey's first wife was Lady Pera Royce, and she has 3 children, and the eldest was Stevron Frey. And Stevron Frey is very explicitly described as having grey eyes. And if you're wondering why I know that, what kind of a nerd I could be, well, it's because of, the research I did for when I was trying to create the ill-fated Every Frey Explained, which is definitely 100% coming. Trust me, it's coming. It's 2024, I promise. That's my campaign promise. Forget everything else. That's the main pledge. Every Frey Explained is coming this year. But, big grey eyes. Stevron Frey is described as having the grey eyes. And his younger brother Aenys Frey is described as being a giant of a man. In A Clash of Kings, Arya sees Aenys Frey and he's like, he's a giant of a man. I remember when I was doing my research, I was like, hold on. Walder Frey, I don't think his eyes are mentioned, but why does Stevron have grey eyes? And why is his younger brother Aenys, why is he a giant of a man? Walder Frey's tiny, and his younger brother Aemon, his older brother Aemon Frey is described as being small. But that's because I double-checked. I was like, oh yeah, their mother was a Royce. So Aenys Frey is half Royce, which is why he's so large, because the Royces are large. And Stevron Frey has the grey eyes because the Royces have grey eyes. And likewise, the Crakehall Freys are big-boned, powerful, muscular. The Blackwood Freys are a bit more intelligent, dark-haired. It's quite fun. Anyway, I've already gone off on a Frey tangent, and we are literally 26 seconds into the video. It's alright, let's get on with it. Minnie said the grey eyes go well with the bronze. Yeah, I also tried to make sure that that the colours sort of complement each other in some way. And for example, the exact colour of this armour, if you're wondering how I achieve that bronze, I think I usually take the sigils from the wikis and I copy the colour and I see if it works, and sometimes it fits, and if it doesn't quite, then I adjust it to make it lighter or darker based on what looks, Thick, someone says in the chat. Yeah, the Crakehall Freys are they're the thick ones. Thick with 2 C's and thick with a CK, in both meanings of the word. And boast ancestral sets of bronze plate armour inscribed with runes, as well as the Valyrian steel sword Lamentation, until it went missing, of course. So yes, of course, various houses in Westeros have Valyrian steel swords, ancestral swords passed from heir to heir. Not always heir to heir. For example, Selyn Corbray is the second son of the late Lord Corbray. That's not his nickname, I'm saying that because he's dead. But he gave his second son Lady Forlorn, and not his firstborn son and heir, which isn't usually what you do. And it's also different, and down in Dawn, of course, you have House Dane, and they have an ancestral sword called Dawn, not Dawn the region, but Dawn Dawn, and it's the whole white, milky white meteorite sword. So it's not Valyrian steel, but it's just it's still powerful and epic and so on. And that's ancestral, but it's not heir to heir. It's not even generation to generation. It's only warriors who are fit to wield it can wield it. So Arthur Dane was the Sword of the Morning. He bore that title, he bore that sword because he was a great knight and honourable man and so on. Whereas usually with Valyrian steel, it's heir to heir. But as we find out later in this video, in ancient Royce lore, the sword is missing. But when they do have it, it's sort of when it could. I don't think it's described, but I decided to give it a bronze handle with runes on it. I thought that would be fun. And then of course we have the dark Valyrian steel armor with the dark red running through it from where it's been folded during the process of during the whole smithing process. But anyway, yes. Their sigil displays black iron studs on a bronze field, bordered with enigmatic runes. So yeah, it's the bronze of the first men, the runes of the first men. It could just be a fun aesthetic, could it just be fun background lore, or maybe not. Maybe it's more important. Maybe it somehow links to defeating the others. Maybe Jon Snow is going to wear bronze runic armor while wielding Valyrian steel, Longclaw, and that combo will make him a beast. Maybe that's what the last hero wore. Maybe the last hero was a Royce. But we'll get into all that during the theory iceberg, I think. House words are just as mysterious. We remember. Royce is a first man name. For instance, several Red Kings of the North boasted the name Royce Bolton. I did a little In Deep Geek reference there, with deliberately rolling the R's with Royce Bolton. Royce Bolton. If anyone here watches In Deep Geek, he likes to roll the R's when he's giving his lore videos where he'll talk about, House Royce and so on. Yes, I noticed this just while researching. I don't think I came across anyone talking about this. I was just writing the script and I was like, oh yeah, oh no, I think what happened is I typed Royce into my pictures to get up some Royces, and it came up with King Royce the second and King Royce the fourth, and I was like, as in Royce Bolton, right? King Royce Bolton the second, Royce Bolton the fourth, Royce Red Arm, and I was like, oh yeah, there are Boltons called Royce. That's interesting. And then I realised, Royce must be an ancient first man name, and if there's a House Royce, that's that's the equivalent of a house. I don't know. House Barry or something, right? Like just a first name, and there could be an old first man warrior called Royce. And then everyone was like, then he became king, and he was King Royce, and then his son became King something Royce, and then the House of Royce was formed. But that's a fun little linguistic touch that Germ has added to the story, where you have this powerful house called Royce, and there is an ancient first name of Royce. I almost didn't include it in the script because I thought that feels like a tiny unnecessary detail, but then I was like, include it anyway. House Royce must trace his ancestry back to someone called Royce, who made a name for himself. The ancient house rose to become one of many warlords in the Vale, the Bronze Kings. It's cool. We got the Boltons in the north were the Red Kings, and the Royces were the Bronze Kings. So if you had a certain colour associated with you, you get to have a cool name. Although speaking of cool names, House Shet, because during the when the first men ruled over the lands of Westeros, lots of petty kings, and obviously the Andals came, and then you still had petty warlords and petty kings and so on that developed into bigger kingdoms, the Seven Kingdoms. But before then, they all gave themselves different titles. So obviously the Royces were the Bronze Kings, and then the Shets were the Kings of the True Men, and the Corbrays were the King of the Fingers, and they all had their own niche little title. A fierce rivalry with the self-proclaimed Kings of the True Men, the monarchs of House Shet of Gulltown. The earliest Royce we know of is... Oh, we have a cheeky super chat from Gavin. Oh, we have two super chats. Oh, my bad. I'm very sorry. I've slipped back. Let me go back a bit. Thank you. First off, thank you for the super chat from Vandalman8, who says, you wake up in the Eyrie and you want some cereal for breakfast. Do you trust the milk in the fridge? Why or why not? I do trust the milk in the fridge in the Eyrie because I know it will be cool. I feel like the Eyrie seems to be quite a windswept, chilly place, and especially in winter, especially the further up you go, up the Giant's Lance into the Eyrie itself, right, where it's cold, you have snow-capped mountains, frosty winds. You know that the milk's going to be cold. There's nothing worse than lukewarm milk, unintentional lukewarm milk. If you put it in a microwave, that's another thing. But no, not unintentional. Nice cold milk in the Eyrie. Maybe it's like resting on a bit of snow that's swept into the moon door. Give it a nice swig. They'll have a nice vibe to it, Now, can you trust it? Well, admittedly, if we're talking the Eyrie by the end of the latest book, then obviously Littlefinger is the Lord Protector of the Vale. He's there. He's a man who takes no prisoners. He's a man who will sacrifice any pawn he desires. whether they're on his side or against him. Do I trust that the milk won't be poisoned? No, there is a chance the milk will be poisoned, but in this situation, the first thing I do is pledge my fealty to Littlefinger, then I'd have the milk. Because I know the Royces and the Redforts and all these honourable Vale houses, it's a place of chivalry. They're not going to poison anything. It's only Littlefinger's going to poison anything. So if I'm good with Littlefinger, I'm safe. So yeah, I will have that nice ice-cold milk. I'll enjoy myself. I'll have it with some cereal, drink it on its own, but I'll be friends with Littlefinger, right? Hey, he'll probably offer me something. He'll offer me some grain. Maybe he'll offer to pay off my debts, my student debts, right? He does that with Anya Wainwood, helps to pay her debts. Maybe he can help to pay off my debts for getting a useless master's degree in history. That'd be amazing. I'd be like, yeah, I'm on your side. I'm not gonna. Sure, he's not a nice guy, but I'm on the grind, right? I'm on the grind. I need resources to make more YouTube videos. So I'm siding with Baelish. I'm on his side. He won't have a problem with me. I can drink the milk in peace. Did I answer that question in enough detail? I think I answered it in too much detail, and I wouldn't be surprised if I've lost at least 10% of the audience after that tangent. Don't bring up milk. I'm going to get distracted, trust me. Next super chat from Gavin Copley, who says, love your content. Thank you very much, Gavin. You're a legend. It carries on. It helps with the endless wait for wins. I mean, if you're using my videos to cope with wait for wins, you're going to be watching my channel for the rest of your life, my friend. I don't know if wins is coming at this point. I think I've said this before recently. I had a bit of hope, but the hopium is all out of. I've run out. The canisters are empty. There's no more hopium to be injected. The copium canisters were finished ages ago. I'm done. I'm done with it. Genuinely, I'm not. I want wins so badly, but the fact he didn't even mention it in his New Year's post, the fact that he hasn't made progress in a year, and mentions the same page count like last year and then this year, it's like, I think he's not going to do it. I don't think he can quite finish it. But that's fine, because we can still enjoy the TV shows and the the Westerosi cinematic universe, and we can still explore old lore together. So, and who knows, maybe Wins does come out, in which case I've got a lot more work to do, and I can't wait. But anyway, I interrupted my own reading of the super chat. Gavin goes on to say, the time since I read Dance is longer than the time I was alive before knowing it. Damn. Oh my god. Oh my goodness. Ugh. 12 years, right? 12 years since Wins? I don't know, am I being too doomer? Who thinks Wins is coming out? Because I'm happy to say, okay, maybe 2024, but if it's not 2024, I'm done. I'm not being suckered up anymore. I'm not getting hype. I'm not falling for posts where he'll randomly say, oh, I just did an Arya chapter, and everyone goes, but we're back. No, I'm not falling for it. But anyway, Gavin, thank you so much for your super chat. Let's continue the video. It's King Yorick VI, who defeated his rival King Osgood Shet III several times, driving him back inside the Goldtown walls. So Osgood turned to diplomacy. And as you've noticed, I've given Osgood Shet a bronze crown, bronze armour to sort of represent his first manness, but I didn't give him the runes, right? So I could differentiate him. You see, this was during the Andal invasion, the migration of Andals from Essos to Westeros. Petty kings had previously hired Andal warlords to fight their battles for them. So the Andal warlords, I've given them steel armour and some 7-pointed stars, which often resulted in betrayal. King Osgood proved more cunning in securing the allegiance of the Andal knight, Sir Gerald Grafton. And here we have the introduction of Sir Gerald Grafton. A few times people have said, you should do a whole video about like the Andal invasion, and I might do in the future. I could definitely have some animated lore, not focusing on specific houses, but on general epochs in the history of Westeros. We could have like, the Dawn Age, the Age of Heroes, the first men coming over, the invasion of the Andals, all that stuff. They married each other's daughters in the customs of the Faith of the Seven, and King Osgood himself even converted to the faith. So Osgood was, this was a man of diplomacy. This man has read The Art of the Deal. He wasn't just saying, oh, I'm going to hire you as a mercenary and you do my work for me, because mercenaries are loyal to one thing, and that's themselves, right? And gold. Maybe gold above themselves. But Osgood Shet was like, okay, powerful Andals, they got all that steel, they love glory and so on. I'm gonna marry his daughter. I'm gonna make his daughter a princess. I'm gonna convert to the faith myself and show that you can trust me. We are brothers. We are bonded by faith, so you cannot betray me. Of course, Gerald then, if you believe the legends, goes on to betray him anyway, because, well, not for gold, but for power. Thus they sailed north to defeat the Bronze King in battle, but it proved a Pyrrhic victory. King Osgood was slain, potentially by his ally Sir Gerald, who claimed his crown and declared himself King Gerald Grafton of Goldtown. And since then, the Goldtowns... since then, the Graftons have ruled over Goldtown. So currently, the Lords Bannerman, powerful Lords Bannerman of the Arryns, the Lords of Goldtown, the port city of Goldtown, the only port city in the Vale, that is House Grafton. And they have a very cool sigil. I can't remember where I ranked this in my sigil ranking live stream, but I think I liked it. Was this B tier? This may be in B tier. Maybe A tier. It's really cool. And I did try to reflect that in his red cloak and his yellow 7-pointed star there. Yorick the Sixth. So yeah, the video does go on a slight tangent, but the idea is that it was a Pyrrhic victory, that they did actually defeat the Bronze King. Maybe I should have had a little frame, a little animated thing where I show the Bronze King like actually fleeing, just so there's more connective tissue in the video. Because this part does come across a little bit as like I just go on a brief tangent about the Andal invasion, but it's like they team up to defeat King Royce, and then he gets betrayed and the Graftons take over Goldtown, and it all feeds into how the Andal start taking over the Vale, which obviously leads into the next Bronze King. King Osgood was slain, potentially by his ally Sir Gerald, who claimed his crown and declared himself King Gerald Grafton of Goldtown. Yorick VI's grandson eventually took the seat of Runestone as King Robar Royce II, as fearsome as he was cunning. Though the King Robar Royce II had swept across the Vale, some First Men houses stood their ground: Belmore, Coldwater, Hunter, Redfort, and Upcliff. What's Upcliff? Okay, before we dive into these houses, we have a couple more super chats. As I've said before, I'm not quite at the stage where I can delay super chats to the end of the video to do like a kind of glider sort shift X of, okay, last hour of the video we answer super chats, right? So it's because I don't get that many, so it's more respectful, I think, to answer them as they arrive than to leave people waiting. Where did we get? Where was it? There we go. So, thank you for the super chat from Vandalman8. Again, thank you. Who says, you enjoy your breakfast. When you put the milk back, you see, to your horror, the name Lysa written on the carton. Why is this turned into a role-playing game? Why is this turned into a choose-your-own-adventure via super chats? Oh, God. See... Oh... God damn it. See, when you said the name Lysa written on the carton, my first instinct was, oh, it's for Lysa, so therefore it's poisoned because Littlefinger wants to kill Lysa. And I was like, oh no, it's her milk, isn't it? I've arrived in the Vale, I've teleported to the Vale, I've woken up, there's a lovely glass of, well, a carton of cold milk resting on a bank of snow. I drink it, it's nice and cold, it's refreshing, it's energizing, and then I see it is in fact Lysa Arryn's titty milk. Well, I don't know what to do, Vandalman. I'm going to have to carry that with me to the grave. No one saw it, so that's fine. Me and Sweet Robin have one thing in common now, I guess. Alright, thank you for the super chat from Gavin Copley again. Super kind of you. He says, I have a morbid hope that George will release both books posthumously, because it's very similar to the show and he doesn't want to see the outcry. I think it's definitely not that. I don't think there's no chance in the world that he will write both books and then wait to die to release them. I think he's either going to write Winds and release it and then never finish Dream of Spring, or he's going to keep working on Winds on and off until he dies, and what there is that exists will be released. Or, and this is the darkest timeline, he's not actually working on it and he's basically going to stop talking about Song of Ice and Fire. He's going to gradually phase it out because he's decided he's too old, he has better things to do, He's not going to spend the rest of his life stressing. He's just going to work on the TV stuff, and he's just not going to bring up wins until he dies. And there have been some rumours that he's told people close to him and other authors and so on and publishers that like he's not going to finish it, that he's given up the hopes of finishing it. Probably not true, but that is the dark third option. But we shall see. Right, yeah, so look at the 5 houses here. I was just checking the chat for a little bit. Look at the 5 houses here. We have House Redfort, which is known to be quite an honourable house. In the main book series, it's ruled by Lord Horton Redfort, who actually, one of the Lords Declarant, as we learn later, but also he took on Demeric Bolton as a ward, and Demeric grew up to be quite, a good-natured musician and horse rider, and he was quiet and polite and chivalrous, I believe. So I think he may have learned a lot of that from the Redforts. House Upcliffe, I think they're descended from like a witch or a witch queen or something like that. The Belmores, there is a Lord Belmore in the books who's part of the Lord's Declarant, and he's a bit of a fat oaf. And I think Littlefinger. I think Littlefinger outright calls him corrupt. He says Belmore is corrupt, and I can bribe him into being on my side, basically. House Coldwater is a vassal of the Royces. The Tollets, Shetts, and Coldwaters are all vassals of the Royces. Don't know why there's so much scatological imagery associated with the Royces vassals, but there we go. And then we have House Hunter. And in the Song of Ice and Fire, there is a Lord Hunter who has recently died, and Littlefinger believes he's been murdered by his son, and that son is going to murder his way through the line of succession and become the new Lord, and yeah. Just some interesting background stuff. Robar Royce brought them together with bonds of gold, land, and blood, and, according to the legend, a test of skill, by besting Lord Hunter in an archery contest. The Bronze King... So yeah, that's just a legend. The idea that he got all these first men to rally behind him and to become the king of the Vale, the Fingers, and the Mountains of the Moon, to save the first men people, first men culture, first men rule, all that stuff. He did it with marriages, he did it with gold, and apparently Lord Hunter, he did an archery contest with him. And what I didn't mention in this video is that the legend also goes that King Robar Royce cheated at that archery contest. Became the High King of the Vale, the Fingers, and the Mountains of the Moon. Through warfare and guile, Robar II beat back the Andals. He slew King Kyle Corbray of the Fingers. Yes, so King Kyle Corbray was the Andal king of the Fingers. The Hammer of the Hills at Iron Oaks. I'll go back a little bit. The Fingers being those that little stretch of land coming out of the Vale that look like fingers. Littlefinger is from one of those fingers. Hence his name, Littlefinger. Yeah, so the Corbrays are Lords Bannerman right now. Corbray of the Fingers defeated the Hammer of the Hills at Iron Oaks. So the Hammer of the Hills, I don't know if he belongs to any particular house. He's just this king called the Hammer of the Hills, and based on characters like Robert Baratheon and Hugh Hammer, I kind of get the impression that the Hammer of the Hills is meant to be this like huge giant man who wields a warhammer, because that seems to be an archetype George has for certain characters. And sent his sister to infiltrate Goldtown and convince the Shetts to rise up against the Graftons. These defeats shook the Andal warlords out of their infighting, and they rallied behind a leader. Yeah, we hear about that he sent his sister into Goldtown and so on, but I imagine the attempts to get people to the Shetts to rise up against the Graftons didn't work, because we know the Graftons are currently ruling Goldtown. Of their own, Sir Artis Arryn, the Falcon Knight, thus heralded the Battle of the Seven Stars. So yeah, I did the same thing I did for the Blackfire video, which is I applied a camera shake to the background image to give it the sense of that kind of like shaky cam, Saving Private Ryan, like, whoa, you're in the thick of the war. Which raged at the foot of the Giant's Lance. And usually for those battle scenes, I had like a hill with a, the sky in the background. But for this one, I made a new hill and I threw in some snow-capped mountains to make it feel more vale-y, 6 times the Andals charged at the lines of the first men, and 6 times they were repelled. until the laughing warrior Torgold the Grim led the 7th charge and broke through, slaying Lord Redfort. King Robar Royce launched a swift... So yes, this is Torgold the Grim, who is Torgold Tollett. Again, the Tollets go on to become Royce Bannerman. But the main Tollett we know of is Dolorous Ed. So if you know Ed from the show, Ed from the books, he's a sort of very depressed, cynical, dry, sarcastic man. The Carl Pilkington of Westeros, as I call him. And ironically enough, his ancestor is this like big, shirtless, laughing man who would just charge into battle half naked, like laughing his head off, cutting through people. And then he himself was, of course, eventually killed by this Royce King. Counterattack, cutting down Torgold and then Sir Artus Arryn himself. But the man was a decoy. The real Falcon Knight attacked from the rear and slew King Robar in single combat, although other tales claim it was Lord Ruthermont or Sir Lucian Templeton who did the deed, or even Sir Jaime Corbray who reclaimed... So yeah, it's the classic unreliable history. Who exactly killed Robar Royce? Did he happen to be... Was it king on king? Was it Artus Arryn who went on to become the first Arryn King versus the Royce King? Because that's perfect for the singers. Or... were there some other options? Was it Templeton? Was it Ruthermont? Was it Jaime Corbray who reclaims Lady Forlorn, which was taken from his brother, either his father or his brother Kyle Corbray, who I showed earlier. And here I drew Lady Forlorn, so Valyrian steel blade, but for the pommel I gave it a little ruby love heart, because there's the red love heart is on the Corbray sigil. The ancestral Corbray sword, Lady Forlorn. Sir Artus Arryn was proclaimed King Artus I of Mountain and Vale, and the surviving Royces bent the knee, becoming Lords Bannerman. So another thing you might notice is that the Arryns I've drawn, I've made them blonde and I've given them blue eyes, and that's because we don't really know what the Arryns look like, right? Because in the main book series we have Robert Arryn, who has watery eyes and like dark hair, but there's a sickly mockingbird theory, right, that he's Littlefinger's son, and quite honestly I think he probably is, because he's not described as looking like Lysa, and he's not described as looking like a young Jon Arryn, right? The only time an Arryn is actually physically described, other than Sweet Robin, who may not actually be an Arryn, is Harold Harding, who's described as looking like a young version of Jon Arryn, and he has blue eyes and sandy hair. So as a result, in my head, the Arryns are blue-eyed and blonde-haired. Because as we know from other houses, generally their genetic traits don't change over thousands of years. So, the Tullys are always ginger, the Baratheons are always dark-haired, the Lannisters are always blonde, etc. So I decided I drew all of my Arryns as being blonde/sandy with blue eyes. But yeah, in the future, History of House Arryn, that would be quite a big video, because there's a lot of Arryn lore. But that'll be a fun one. We do not hear of House Royce until the early stages of Targaryen rule. In 37 AC, Lord Ronald Arryn was murdered by his younger brother Jonos, who declared himself king. Okay, I had fun creating the moon door. So himself king. Well, let's go back a little bit. So what I did here was this is two different layers. There's the outside of the moon door here, so background, the shelf, the door frame, blah blah blah, and then everything within the door frame, so this greyness, this is a different layer, which means Targaryen rule in 30. Oh, and this is the art Loopsy was talking about in the soup chat, based on the art of Ted Naismith, because it's the best eerie art there is. So this is my little homage. I had fun drawing this. 37 AC, Lord Ron. So as you can see, the character comes from behind here because I placed him behind this layer and over this one. So then he pops over here, and then I switch it, and then I cut that character in half, and I put that asset above both layers, so then when he's pushed he falls over it, so then we get the effect of him coming out from behind and then falling over. And was murdered by his younger brother Jonos, and then I threw in a little man falling sound effect, because why not? Oh yeah, and this is an old, if you think this background looks a bit crusty, this is like an old art thing. I might need to revamp it. This was like early Fantasy Haven. But it has the white marble pillars with blue veins, which is, again, blue, white, silver. Those are the colours of House Arryn, and those are also like my colours. So I really do like the Arryns in the eerie even if we don't really know that much about them. Oh, and one more thing, I keep interrupting myself. So he's sitting on a weirwood throne, again adding to the white, right, colour scheme. The crown, I believe, is based off of the... I say I believe because it's been a while since I drew the crown. That's like an old picture. But I think it's based off of the Arryn crown from the CK3 A Game of Thrones mod, where various houses have very specific crowns. So on the off chance you become king of like a region or of the Seven Kingdoms, there's a special crown. So like you could play a Frey and you could get that Frey to sit on the throne and he has a special crown, which is like a bunch of bridges together. And this was the Arryn crown, where you have like a silver falcon wings and the blue gems on it. And so I was inspired by that. Himself king. When Aenys the First Targaryen failed to act decisively. Here's in the background we've got Aegon the Uncrowned cameo there. This is King Aenys. Lord Allard Royce took matters into his own hands, gathering a host to siege the Eyrie. After Jonos himself was thrown out the moon door by a disloyal garrison, the Eyrie passed to Lord Hubert Arryn, who was married to a Royce. Lord Allard, of course, did not contest the new line of succession, and was rewarded for his loyalty with gold and titles. During the minority... Yeah, I was going to say something there, but like, I don't want to just repeat what I've just said. Yeah. But the Royces are The Royces are like the second most powerful house in the Vale. So every place in every region, every Lord of Paramountcy sort of has its own second most powerful / rival house, right? Which I talked about before. So in the north, the big rivals, the Boltons, you could argue the second most powerful house are the Manderleys, right? Financially at least. Then in the Westerlands you had the Lannisters, and then the second being the Reynes. In the Reach you have the Tyrells, and then the second being the Hightowers. In Dawn you have the Martells, and the second most powerful being the Ironwoods, so on and so forth. In the Vale, the Arryns are the most powerful, and the Royces are the second most powerful, and they do get themselves involved in Eyrie politics, sometimes through force, sometimes through politics, more subtle politics. But as we can see here, Lord Allard Royce just like marched on the Eyrie like, no, we are loyal to the Targaryens, you just murdered the Lord, screw you. And then they got someone else on the throne who was married to a Royce, and so that pleased him. But as we'll see later on, right, where I talk about Jane Arryn's death and how that impacts Vale politics as a whole, when there's a succession crisis and the Royces they choose a certain side because they have a lot of sway and influence and power. Of succession, and was rewarded for his loyalty with gold and titles. During the minority of Lady Jane Arryn, Yorbert Royce was named Lord Protector of the Vale. He attended the Great Council of 101 in Lady Arryn's stead. So we got a couple of cameos here. We have a Lannister, we have a Lefford, and we have a Stark. And presumably voted for Prince Viserys Targaryen. Yeah, so we're not explicitly told. This is young Vizzy T, by the way. But I gave him a thinner moustache. We're not explicitly told who the Royces voted for, but we can assume he voted for Viserys, considering he's the Lord Protector, he's the regent of an Arryn, and Viserys was married to Emma Arryn, or at least betrothed to her. And of Emma Arryn. Yorbert's heir was Lady Rhea Royce, who married Prince Daemon Targaryen in 97 AC. Why did I give... Okay, yeah. I was going to say, why did I give her grey eyes? Because she's a Royce. I'm getting so wrapped up in Arryn stuff, I almost thought this was an Arryn video. I'm just going to quickly check the chat, because it looks like we have a super chat. Oh, whoopsie. Don't mind me, just scrolling. This is the thing with with having one monitor. I've got to check my phone and the chat comes in quite slowly. Oh, some people were talking about the moon door, about whether they prefer... Yeah, let me know in the chat. Do you prefer the show moon door, which is the big round trapdoor in the floor, basically, and there are fight scenes around it and so on, or do you prefer the book version where it's like giant doors in the wall and you open them up, and if you're throwing people out you march them and you force them to jump? But thank you for the super chat from Flippy Dippy Doo, who says, I think Sweet Robin just looks like Hoster, who also had brown hair and blue eyes. Littlefinger isn't described as having either. He has dark hair and green eyes. Yeah, that's a good point. But I don't know. Yeah, maybe. But I do like the theory of him being Littlefinger's son. I don't know. I do quite like that. But you're right. He could easily have taken after Hoster. The marriage proved disastrous. Oh, so this isn't a super chat, but someone said, "Is it pronounced Ironwoods? I've been saying Yawnwoods the whole time." Oh yeah, I used to think it was Eronwood, and then it turned out it was Ironwood, with the I being replaced by a Y, which is infuriating. Oh my god, I mean, I'm willing to forgive a lot of random Ys. I'm willing to forgive it, right? Random Ys and random Qs, I can accept that. I cannot accept Ironwood with the Y. I just can't do it. That and Uncle, I can't do it. But that's just me. With the mercurial Daemon pained by boredom and dislike for his wife, the bronze bitch. So yeah, we see the bronze bitch in the show. The sheep are prettier according to Daemon, although from my memory Rhea Royce wasn't that bad looking, but they did not get on at all. They had a real distaste for each other. She likewise held little love for him. I really enjoyed doing that bit. Like, I was sitting there animating and I was like, do I want to have her throw a knife at a portrait of him? That would take so much work. And I just went, nah, let's do it. So I'm going to play that bit again. Love for him. Ooh. Like for his wife, the bronze bitch. She likewise. So yeah, I did a fun little flip. Held little love for him. So this portrait of Daemon, what I did was I went onto Canva and I got a picture of Daemon and I put him on a red background, and then I saved that image, and then I put that image through the paint effect, specifically an effect called Windle, and it kind of makes it look like that, and then I put it in a frame that I designed before, like a few months ago. And so every now and then I will have portraits in these videos, and that's by making myself a little portrait and then putting it through the Windle effect and then putting it in the frame, and it kind of looks like a painting. I'm quite proud of that. In 115, Lady Rhea Royce of Runestone fell from her horse and cracked her skull. I think that if animating her throwing a dagger at a portrait was like a spur of the moment idea I had, if that was creative, this was lazy. Like, I really should have had her like falling onto a rock. I should have been a bit more creative with this scene. This is kind of Royce of Runestone fell from her horse and cracked her skull. Look how goofy that horse was. Do I need to redesign these horses? These are like... I try to revamp my art to look better and better. But this horse is old. This is old. This is History Haven horse. And that's not a joke. That's like... From back when I was trying to make videos for a channel called History Haven. Like 2 years ago, that's the horse I designed. That's an early design. Maybe I need to make some new horses, I don't know. Cracked her skull. She was bedridden for over a week, rising on the 9th day, only to die within the hour. Some suspected her accident may have been organised by her hateful husband, Daemon. Transition. So in the show they make it very obvious that Rhea Royce is murdered by Daemon. He literally appears in his crime hoodie, and the horse is spooked, and the horse lands on her and paralyses her, and then he smashes her head in with a rock, and it makes it seem like she fell off her horse. In the book, I think it's implied he's in the stepstones when that happens, so couldn't have happened. Wait, no, I can't remember. But the book, it makes it ambiguous. But I think there's an argument to be made that it definitely wasn't Daemon. Wait, no, that's a dumb sentence. There's an argument to be made that it may not have been Daemon. But in the show, they were like, it's more entertaining to have him kill her than to have her just randomly die. Imagine a scene where she just fell off a horse and it was like, oh, okay. There's a coincidence. But in the books, we're not so sure. So someone said, Vizzy T looking sharp. Yeah, I quite like Vizzy T's outfit back here. Where is he? There he is. I gave him and presumably voted for... I gave him a bit of a pinky purple. For Daenerys Targaryen. Inspired by the sort of purplish outfit that he wears in that famous Amok art piece of him. The husband of Aemma Arryn. Okay, let's move forward. And cracked her by her hateful husband, Daemon. After all, when he returned to the Vale, he unsuccessfully tried to claim the lands and incomes of House Royce. But Runestone instead passed to Rhea's nephew. Now, this is a scene we could have got in the show. Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, I'm quite behind in the chat, so I'm going to address some chat stuff in a second. I'm going to quickly finish my point, which is that you can tell that House of the Dragon season 1 was potentially planned originally to be maybe a couple episodes longer. I know George said he wanted 13 episodes, and maybe Ryan Condal did as well. But there are moments that are in the books that aren't in the show, and are even hinted at happening but never happened. So in episode 5, during the wedding between Rhaenyra and Laenor Velaryon, there's a bit when Sir Gerald Royce, the cousin of Rhea Royce, is like, "Oi, you killed her," and Daemon says, "No, I didn't." But on that note, I'm going to visit Jane Arryn and petition her and say that I should have the landed income of my wife. And of course, that gets rejected. And then after that gets rejected, he goes off and then ends up marrying Lena, right? But it feels like that could have been a really fun scene in the show where we meet a young Jane Arryn and Daemon swaggers into the Eyrie and is like, "My wife's dead, I want her castle." And Jane Arryn is just like, "You'd never lived here, you didn't love her, you didn't spend any time with her, you're not getting her income and lands, fuck off," right? That could have been a really fun scene. We didn't quite get that. But I don't know where they would have put it time-wise. But that's why I think season 1 of Hot D just needed a few more episodes. To some people earlier on in the chat, I need to catch up with the chat so I'm not getting behind, about what version of the Moon Door they prefer. While I'm doing that, let me get the Moon Door up here. I should have a picture of the Moon Door somewhere here. Do I have a picture of the... Do I ever show the inside of the Moon Door in this? I must do, right? Or is it in my extended video? Maybe I don't show the Moon Door. Ah, there we go. There's the outdoor of the Moon Door. I have another version where the door is shut. So yeah, it opens inwards, obviously, because if it opened outwards, how would you grab it? And when it's shut, it's closed with 3 iron bars because the wind is so strong up the mountain. But people are saying floor door, show version is better, show version is more thematic and interesting. Okay, people really like the show version. I kind of like the book version, and I don't know if I'm just being a book purist, but I remember reading it and enjoying it, and then I watched Game of Thrones after, and it was in the floor, and I was like, oh no, that is cool, don't get me wrong. Like having the Bronn fight centered around the floor one and pushing Lysa in, like, it is cool. But there is something about the door in the wall I quite like. I don't know. But yeah, it looks like people really love the show version. Oh, Azeki Prophet said, I remember a discussion on Interesting Nerd Club about this election, that being the Great Council 101, I assume. And they kind of all agreed Royce's vote was bought by promise of getting royal marriage, and they got it with Daemon. Excuse me. Yeah, that could be it, actually. Lord Protector of the Vale was like, listen, I'm voting on behalf of Emma Arryn, you know, Jane Arryn, Lady Jane Arryn, and my vote means a lot. And that's how you got the Daemon Rhea Royce marriage. Because I always thought that was a bit of a strange marriage. Like a Targaryen prince, the heir to the throne, marrying the Lady of Runestone. Like, they are a powerful house. But you'd think Prince Daemon Targaryen would marry a Lord Paramount's daughter or sister, not a bannerman of a Lord Paramount. I don't know. I wonder why George chose Royce. I wonder whether he just picked a random house or... Nuncle Ironwood Blackfire. No. Blackfire is cool. Blackfire with a Y instead of an I. That's cool. That's actively cool. Okay, let's carry on. The show one looks way better than just a door to nothing. Okay, people really like the show version, it looks like. Okay, what did I get up to? I got up to, there we go. Tyrek Lannister's immortal. Oh, my horse Tyrek. I don't know if you've seen my Young Griff, Illyrio, Fagon video, then I throw in Tyrek Lannister's thrown in there, and I gave him a horse head. Yeah, I thought so. Daemon was at the stepstone. In the books, Daemon's at the stepstones when Royce dies, although that doesn't mean he couldn't have sent assassins after her. But in the show, they have it happen after this, not just after the Stepstones, but after the Stepstones, and then after he's kicked out of court by Viserys, again. Which Stark Lord is it? In the Council 101, that's meant to be Rickon Stark, the father of Cregan Stark. Do House Mallister next? There's not lots of lore about House Mallister, but I'll look into if there's enough for like a proper video. And if there's not enough for a proper video, then I can do shorts. I can do animated YouTube shorts. Okay. After all, when he returned to the Vale, he unsuccessfully tried to claim the lands and incomes of House Royce, but Runestone instead passed to Rhea's nephew. During the Dance of the Dragons in 130, Sir Willem Royce was one of the famous 7 who rode... I just did like a Boomer Teacher thing where I've got like my arrow over there. Oh yeah, this is an effect I haven't really done before. Usually when I have a character on a horse, it's always from the side. So I was trying to catch up with the chat there, so I'm sorry that everything just kind of slowed to a halt. But then again, these live streams are sort of a lot more chill and slow paced. This is like a podcast you can just put on in the background. But usually I have a horse on the side. But I think it would be quite cool to have like a bunch of people riding towards the camera. So I made some horse heads. This one in the middle looks particularly emo. And then I had the characters behind them. Then I have them bopping up and down to look like they're riding forwards. And I think the effect worked quite well. Knights who sped through the chaos of King's Landing to rescue Joffrey Velaryon. Sir Willem was killed by a random commoner who stole Lamentation. The ancestral sword has not been found since. So yes, someone commented, wasn't Ellaard Stark at the Council of 101? I got mixed up. I was thinking of Rickon Stark, who bent the knee to Rhaenyra. I wasn't thinking of the Great Council. Okay, so yeah, this is where Lamentation went missing. I have no idea where it is. I don't know whether it will come back into play in the story. Like, something like Dark Sister, definitely going to come back into the story. Lamentation, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about, I don't know. It could be cool. But like, where is it? It was kidnapped by some random peasant, and then I don't mention it here, but it's taken to the dragon pit and potentially used to kill some dragons, right? And just vanishes. Like, was it sold? Was it taken? Is there like a family that passes it down? Is it like hidden in some King's Landing house, some apartment somewhere? I don't know. But it's I guess it represents the brutality and the chaos of the later stages of the Dance of the Dragons, where even a honourable Royce knight with his Valyrian steel sword is cut down by a simple commoner and his sword is stolen. So the 7 who rode, House of the Dragon spoilers here, by the way. So I didn't draw too much attention to this part in the video, but if you don't want any House of the Dragon spoilers, then mute for, I will say, 20 seconds. So 3, 2, 1, mute. Okay, so yeah, what happens is that Joffrey Velaryon jumps on a dragon and flies out of the Red Keep because he sees what's happening at the Dragon Keep and he wants to protect the dragons, but he ends up falling off the dragon he's on, and then he falls to his death. And so 7 knights are sent out to rescue him just in case he's alive, and they're known as the 7 who rode because they bravely rode out into King's Landing, which at the time was rioting and chaotic and bloodthirsty and all that stuff. And I think they all died. No, maybe not all of them. I think most of them died. But one of them was Willem Royce. One of them was, if we go back, the 3 I included were, this guy was a Manderley. So I had, Willem Royce, Sir Medric Manderley, who survived actually, because he went on to become Lord Manderley until he died from the shivers. And then this was a Knight of the Kingsguard, because I think 3 Kingsguard were sent out of the 7. But yeah. Joffrey Velaryon. So Willem was killed by a random commoner who stole Lamentation. The ancestral sword has not been found since. Lady Jane Arryn's... Someone in the chat is mentioning... Well, Chad Summerchild himself. It's an honour, sir. Saying some people think it became another sword. But for it to become another sword, it would have to be like melted down. And Valyrian steel isn't just... You can't just craft Valyrian steel. Like, you need a special expertise. That's why Valyrian steel, like... it's the knowledge of how to make it is now lost. So all you can do is take the existing ones and melt them down to create new ones. Like, for example, how ice is melted down into two smaller swords, two regular size swords, because ice is a giant ceremonial greatsword. But if some random peasant stole it, it's unlikely it would have ended up in the hands of someone with the skill to break down Valyrian steel, you know, to forge a new sword out of it. His death 4 years later triggered a bloody succession crisis. She had named her distant cousin Sir Joffrey Arryn as her chosen heir, instead of her first cousin Sir Arnold, who had previously tried to overthrow her. Okay, yeah, so this is more Arryn lore. In the script I wrote, I did go into it deeper, but I decided to not to go overboard, because when I do inevitably do the House Arryn video, I can go into more detail there. But basically, Lady Jane Arryn passes away, and this is post House of the Dragon, so this isn't spoilers. Like, this is after that's wrapped up. She dies of a cold or something. Some people say she died in the arms of Lady Jessamine Redfort, who may have been her lover. But the throne passes to a distant cousin, like a fourth cousin or something, called Sir Joffrey Arryn. Because her first male cousin was Sir Arnold, who rose up against her because she was a woman, and he was like, I should take over. And so he rose up against her twice, actually. And after the second time, he threw her in the sky cell. And the sky cells, of course, one of the walls is missing, and you can fall to your death, and it drives people insane. And so Sir Arnold went insane and became known as the Mad Heir. But his son, I believe, what's his son's name? I forgot the name, but Sir Arnold's son basically claimed the throne in his father's stead, right, on behalf of his father. It was like, yep, we're rising up. Jane Arryn is dead. My father is her first cousin, my father should be lord, and then I will rule through him as regent probably, and then take over when he dies. And this war actually turned into a three-way civil war, where there's a cadet branch called House Arryn of Goldtown. And Littlefinger describes them as being like wealthy but uncouth, right? They're kind of looked down upon by the main Arryns, the noble main Arryns, because the Arryns of Goldtown, instead of marrying into nobility, they tend to marry into like merchants to get richer, right? Big hefty dowries, and so they're kind of soiling the bloodline, right? But they're super rich. And so there was one man called Isambard Arryn, who was known as the Gilded Falcon, which is an awesome nickname, who was like, screw it, I'm an Arryn, I'm rich, I should be the lord. So then we had Sir Arnold and the Mad Heir and his son versus Sir Joffrey versus the Gilded Falcon, and they all went at it until eventually again, quite a lot of information is skipped, I guess, but eventually the war peters out, and everyone is forced to bend the knee to Sir Joffrey Arryn, and Sir Joffrey Arryn is the one who takes over. And I believe Arnold Arryn ends up dying, or his son I think Arnold and his son end up being executed, and Isambard Arryn actually ends up being appointed. He's pardoned, and then he's appointed to the small council as Master of Coin, I believe, as her chosen heir. Instead, yes, people are saying Eldrick Arryn or Eldritch Arryn. I think it's Eldritch Arryn who is his son. Of her first cousin Sir Arnold, who had previously tried to overthrow her. Yet various lords rallied behind Sir Arnold, including the bronze giant Lord Gunthor Royce, who harboured him at Runestone. Sir Corwin, the bronze giant, that's a cool name. Corbray, one of Aegon III's regents, confronted Lord Gunthor at Runestone, but was shot down by a crossbowman. So yeah, the crossbowman was on the battlements of House Royce, the battlements of Runestone, and then like he had a trigger finger and he fired, and he accidentally, maybe intentionally, he killed. No, I think it was intentional, right? Because Kyle Corbray, not Kyle Corbray, sorry, which Corbray? Corwin Corbray drew his sword, like in anger, or reached for his sword, and then a crossbowman went, oh shit, and fired, and then it killed him. And obviously, as he was a regent of the king, it just kind of, the tension exploded, and that's where the three-way war really broke out. Ooh, Samuel Blackwood says, Littlefinger has Lamentation and smuggled it to the Vale in tapestries. That's interesting. And perhaps he will offer it to a Royce to get Bronzion on his side, or maybe he'll give it to Nestor Royce to secure the cadet branch, House Royce of the Gates of the Moon. And we'll talk a little bit about them later. Confronted Lord Gunthor at Runestone, but was shot down by a crossbowman. War erupted in the Vale and raged until 136, when the Bronze Giant and other lords were forced to bend the knee to the new Lord Joffrey Arryn. So yeah, I did debate whether I should make this section longer, but I was like, okay, talking about that civil war should be in the Arryn video. This is about the Royces. I'll emphasise the Bronze Giant's role in this civil war, but I can talk about it more during the Arryn video. I don't want to get too distracted talking about other things. Which brings us to the Royces of Runestone during the Song of Ice and Fire. And I also don't want to repeat myself. That's the thing. If I'm doing loads and loads of a Song of Ice and Fire lore videos, I don't want to start making videos where like entire chunks are just me repeating what I've said in a previous video. Lord Yon, known as Bronze Yon for his armour, has had 4 children we know of: Sir Andal, Sir Robar, Sir Waymar, and Lady Ysilla. We also know of a Kyle Royce, who was executed by the Mad King; Pera Royce, the first wife of Walder Frey and mother of Stevron, Aemon, Aenys and Perianne; and Rhaella Royce, the wife of Sir Arwood Frey. Okay, so let's go through those. These are the Royces who are brought up, but it's not mentioned what their connection is to the main branch of House Royce. Like, are they cadet branches? Are they brothers, sisters, cousins, second cousins, uncles, nieces, nephews, etc. of Bronze Yon himself? So we have Pera Royce. Oh wait, no, sorry. We have Kyle Royce, who was one of the knights who was executed by the Mad King, right? Where like the Mad King killed Rickard Stark, and he killed Brandon Stark, but he also killed some other knights, and one of them was Sir Kyle Royce, executed by the Mad King. Pera Royce. So Pera Royce is the first wife of Walder Frey. So here we have young Walder Frey. The first. I don't know why she's so buxom. I don't know, but there we go. And then the children they have pop up are the older versions. I didn't do younger versions. These are the ones that pop up. That's what they look like during the main book, series. Wife of Walder Frey and mother of Stevron, Aemon, Aenys, and Perianne. So let me quickly. I'm going to get distracted by the phrase. I've got no choice. Let me run through these people. So wait, why is Kyle Royce screaming? Someone says, is he screaming? Oh, that's his beard. Oh, I see what you mean. No, that's his black beard. I can see what you mean. That kind of looks like he's going, stop. The first wife of Walder Frey and mother of Stevron, Aemon, and Aenys and Perianne. So first off, we have Stevron Frey. He is the son and heir of Walder Frey, and he's described as having grey eyes. Again, that's the Royce connection. So I decided to give them all grey eyes. Unlike his father, Stevron is quite honourable. He's quite noble. He's quite kind. He's quite kindly. Like, he disapproves of his father being so rude to Catelyn, and he seems like quite an amiable fellow. But unfortunate, and apparently he had, Walder Frey instilled family values into him. He was properly like, listen, look after your own, right? Because say what you would about Walder Frey, he has a place for all of his offspring at the Twins. He's like, you all have a place here. You will all be looked after because blood is blood, right? And so Stephen Frey has that, but he ends up mysteriously dying. So after the Battle of Oxcross, right, when he's fighting for Robb Stark, which is impressive because he's like in his 60s, but he fights for Robb Stark, he gets a wound, he's recovering from that wound in his tent. 'Tis but a flesh wound apparently, but he dies, and everyone's like, oh. So it could be a Khal Drogo situation where a minor wound in those days, boom, you could be dead. Or it could be that perhaps his death was ushered along. It was hurried along by one of his heirs. So when he dies, the new heir becomes Ryman Frey, who, unlike him, is a big, fat, nasty man who basically bullied everyone into joining the Red Wedding and was like, if you're not part of the Red Wedding, you're getting kicked out of the Twins. And in Merritt Frey's POV epilogue chapter, he thinks that when Ryman takes over, he's going to start like purging Freys he doesn't like and like kicking them out. He's like, this is my castle, get the fuck out if I don't like you. And then Ryman's sons are even worse. Ryman's sons are Edwin, who's a sour little man, and Black Walder, who is a dangerous, womanizing rogue who most likely is the man who killed his grandfather Stevron. And then Walder Frey and Pera Royce's second son is Aemon Frey, who is a small, bald, chinless man. He is married to Jenna Lannister. the vivacious, energetic younger sister of Tywin Lannister. She's a pretty cool character, and she's very she's very strong-willed, and her husband is quite cowardly and pathetic. And there is something quite funny about this like big, curvy, confident woman being with this small, skinny, chinless, bald, hand-wringing, weak man. And it suggested that not all of Aemon and Jenna's children are actually Aemon's children. And so we have like Cleos Frey and Tion Frey, and I think one of Aemon's sons is called Redwater, and I don't know whether it's Redwater, and he's like a squire at Castle Rock, so he could be Redwater because he's a squire for the Lannisters, and the red of the Lannisters, or maybe he's called Redwater because he's ginger, which would be interesting because Aemon's not ginger and Jenna Lannister isn't ginger, so interesting. And Jenna is known for flirting with knights, so very interesting. But yeah, Aemon is this kind of weak, wimpy, cowardly man who is currently, as of the latest book, he's the Lord of Riverrun, which doesn't make him Lord Paramount of the Riverlands, that belongs to Littlefinger, but he is the Lord of Riverrun, and I imagine he's not going to survive for too long. I'm sure he's going to be revenge killed by the Brotherhood Without Banners or someone at some point. Next up, the largest one is Sir Aenys Frey, also known as Aenys Frey, this is the one who's described as being a giant of a man, which again is the Royce genes kicking in. He has like a horrible wormy brown beard coming off his chin, and he's bald. And he's described as a, from what I remember, Reek says that he has cruel eyes, so he's quite a cruel man, but he's also quite intelligent. Because there are quite a few, dumb Freys. Like, Aemon is described as being a bit dim. He doesn't even realise that he's not Lord Paramount of the Riverlands, or rather, that his father isn't Lord Paramount of the Riverlands. Whereas Aenys is like, Stannis considers Aenys to be a genuine threat militarily. Like, he's a seasoned commander. And so, in the there's a sample chapter for the Winds of Winter. Apparently, Crowfoot Umber, check out my Umber video if you want to know who he is, but Crowfoot Umber and his men dug a bunch of holes outside of the walls of of Winterfell, and load of Frey and Bolton men rode out during the snowstorm, and they didn't see where they were going, and a lot of them fell in the pits. Apparently Aenys fell in his pit and landed on his head and broke his neck, which means that his younger brother Hostine is now in charge of the Frey forces, and Stannis celebrates because he's like, Aenys is a threat, but Hostine is so stupid. So again, that could be decanonized when, if Winds comes out. Now let's be optimistic. When Winds comes out, right? That could be changed, but for now, Aenys has probably broken his neck. And then finally we have Perianne Frey, which is his first daughter. So Walder Frey has like 25 sons and only like 4 daughters. It's really weird. But Perianne Frey is his daughter. We don't know anything about her except that she is married to... Who is she married to? She may be married to a Vance, but I will have to check. No, she's married to Sir Leslyn Hay. There we go. Yeah. She's married... So the Hays are bannermen of the Freys. The Hays and the Freys. So she's married to Sir Leslyn Frey, and she is the mother of Harris Hay, Donal Hay, and Alan Hay. Okay, cool. Oh, speaking of, children, so I've got to mention Aenys Frey, the cruel but cunning one. He has 2 children. The eldest is called Aegon Bloodborne, and he's an outlaw, and we don't know anything else about him. All we know about Aenys Frey is that all we know about Aegon Frey is that his name is Aegon Bloodborne, and he's an outlaw. That's it. That's insane. It's like, holy shit. What's the law there? It feels like almost like a character he came up with, and then he forgot that he came up with him. Because how is there not, like, Aegon Bloodborne, a member of the Brotherhood Without Banners who wants revenge on his own family? Why is he called Bloodborne? Now, at first you might think, oh, Bloodborne, maybe his mother died in childbirth, and so he was, like, mockingly called Bloodborne because he came out all bloody. But no, because he has a younger brother, so I don't know why he's called that. But anyway, his younger brother is called... Rhaegar Frey. So obviously Aenys is named after an old Targaryen king, and he's named his children after Targaryens, right? I believe Wyman Manderley refers to Rhaegar Frey as a smirking worm who wears a dragon's name, so he's a very kind of sardonic, obnoxious man. And he ends up being turned into a pie, which Aenys eats. So this guy has... recently, he's eaten his own son in a pie, and he's broken his neck, so that's fun. Anyway, was this enough of a tangent? Do you reckon this is enough of a Frey tangent? Let's carry on, shall we? And Rhaella Royce, the wife of Sir Arwood Frey. Their relation to the main branch is currently unknown. There are the crew, the mysterious crew. Bronze Yon is a grizzled old tourney knight. And then, of course, we go on to the main branch of Royce. Bronze Yon, and then his 4 children. Andal, Robar, Waymar, and Ysilla. And he has more daughters, actually, than Ysilla. It's just Ysilla's the only one who's actively named. He was defeated by Rhaegar Targaryen at the tourney of Harrenhal, but himself defeated Thoros of Myr at the melee of Prince Joffrey's 12th name day. Now, I get in trouble here. One of my patrons called me out, because apparently Bronze Yon defeated Thoros of Myr with a mace, not with a sword. So I have disgraced myself, and I'll be ending this live stream right now. No, joking. I did cut a bit out just because I was running out of time, but defeated Thoros of Myr. Yeah. He was defeaed by Rhaegar at the tourney of Harrenhal. He was also at the tourney of Lannisport, which was held in celebration after the failed Greyjoy rebellion. Jon Royce was actually unhorsed by Jorah Mormont, who then was knighted Ser Jorah, I believe. Jorah was knighted after the Greyjoy rebellion, right? And then he took part in the tournament. And then after he won, he named Lyness Hightower as the Queen of Love and Beauty, and they ended up marrying and so on. But anyway, the melee of Prince Joffrey's 12th name day. He is also a proud man, refusing Tywin Lannister's offer to marry Tyrion into House Royce. Bronze Yon refusing to marry Tyrion, probably because... not because he doesn't like the Lannisters or anything, but probably because he's like, I don't want one of my daughters marrying a dwarf, which does say something about Bronze Yon, that he might be this kind of haughty, proud man who is like, I'm not going to have one of my children. But even though, like, that's a huge match, the second son of Tywin Lannister, that's a great match. So it just goes to show how nasty people are about dwarves. So, yeah, Bronze Yon, he's generally cool, but that aspect of his character, a bit of a dick. And personally escorting his son Sir Waymar to the wall. They were hosted at Winterfell along the way, and Sansa Stark was smitten with the young man. I had to blush and look away. So yeah, and now we move from past tense into present tense because we have reached the prologue of A Game of Thrones. But yeah, we learn later that Royce and Waymar stopped at Winterfell on their way to... and we learned this through Sansa, on the way to the wall, and Sansa had a big crush on him, because of course he was a handsome young man who's coming to join the Night's Watch. The men of the Night's Watch, however, are less enthralled by this new highborn recruit, and the entitled arrogance he brings with him. Along with his fellow rangers, Will and Garrod, he's commanded to search for wildling raiders in the haunted forest. Here we go, we've made it to the prologue. Do you see that cheeky switch? Past tense to present tense. Did I say past tense to present tense, or did I say something... Did I say, first person? Did I say something dumb like that? I have a bad feeling I said something dumb. Anyway, what I meant to say was, if I didn't say this already, past tense to present tense. On the 9th day of ranging, they encounter the legendary Others, who surround the young knight. Though he stands his ground, they shatter his sword, cut him down, and resurrect him as a wight. I had lots of fun with this section. So yeah, it's a shame. Waymar is kind of a bitch in the show. He's a smug prick, and then he turns around, and then he gets, killed off camera. And it's it's not quite the same as in the show, in the book. He takes out his sword, and he says, dance with me then. And he gets surrounded by others, but of course, the sword clangs, and it shatters, and it, blinds him, and then he's just sliced down. And then he's resurrected as a wight. And it's interesting, because in that entire intro, we see him as this arrogant, smug, obnoxious young man who's wearing fine clothes, and he doesn't have much experience, and he's only been sent out beyond the wall because Lord Commander Mormont didn't want to offend his father and didn't want to offend him, and was like, oh, you're a noble, so you can go off on a ranging. And so, you can kind of think, we know where this is going. He's going to be the poncy young man, and then at the first sign of danger he's going to piss his breeches and flee. But he doesn't. He actually stands his ground and is like, he says, dance with me then. And then you have, and these are the first others. I haven't drawn others before, so I gave them some cool armor. Actually, the armor is the Blackfire armor. I just made it blue because I like the little spikes. And made them, like, in the show they have a very, very distinct look. I tried to make them look a bit more like blue elves. You know, the books describe them more as being like frosty, ethereal ghost elf people. But yeah, shatter his sword, cut him down, and resurrect him as a white. So yeah, as you can imagine, what I did for this was I just Knight. Though he stands his ground, they shatter. I had two sword designs. I had the sword, and then I had the broken sword, and so when the shattering sound effect kicks in, I replaced that asset with the broken sword, and I replaced the Waymar asset with Waymar embedded with shards, and then he gets cut down. That is a loud plane going overhead. My goodness, that is a loud plane. But another interesting fact is that when Jon Snow lets a bunch of wildlings surround the young through the wall, as well as, and to help garrison and man the wall, right? As well as handing over hostages, like Tormund has to hand over one of his sons as a hostage, I think, or a daughter. They also have to hand in their wealth because the Night's Watch needs money. And they hand over a bunch of different personal items, and one of the wildlings hands over a broken sword with a jeweled hilt, and the implication could be that this broken sword with a jeweled hilt could be Waymar Royce's sword, because his sword broke while fighting against wildlings, and how else would a jeweled sword get up north if not, a rich noble like him? So that's quite cool. His ground, they shatter his sword, cut him down, and resurrect him as a white. Down south, Lord Jon and his two older sons attend the Hand's tourney at King's Landing. Sir Andal is defeated by Jaime Lannister, while Sir Robar is defeated by Loras Tyrell, while Bronze Jon and... I'm not a huge fan of animating these jousts. I think I went too fast. Like... by Loras Tyrell. Yeah, I feel like the animation's a bit too fast. It's a bit clunky. And this is a very old picture, actually, in the background. Like, that Sansa looks a bit off. Even Ned looks a bit off. But yeah, it's funny, when you read the tournament, the first time you read a Game of Thrones, it's just all these names being thrown at you, and you're like, Elbar Royce and Robar Royce is Loras Tyrell. You're just like, I don't know who any of these people are. Stop throwing names at me. But now, looking back on it, it's like, oh yeah, those are the two sons of Bronze Jon. King's Landing. Sir Andal is defeated by Jaime Lannister, while Sir Robar is defeated by Loras Tyrell. While Bronze Jon and Andal return to the Vale, Robar decides to forge his own path by supporting King Renly Baratheon and joining his Rainbow Guard as Robar the Red. However, he fails to protect his king from Melisandre's shadow. Oh yeah, April May in the chat mentioned one of the wildlings brought Waymar Royce's broken sword back to the wall. Yes, I didn't see that comment when I first brought it up, otherwise I would have called you out. So, but yeah, I don't know if it's ever confirmed to be his. I think it's just implied to be. Yeah, and that's the thing, because a lot of A Song of Ice and Fire is about perspective, right? Each chapter is from the point of view of a certain character, and it's their perspective on life and love and death and honour and glory and all that stuff. And so when we have like a peasant boy in the Night's Watch who views... because the point of view is from Will, I think, a young man rather, and he views Waymar as just this, this arrogant noble who has no idea what he's talking about, and he kind of hates him. And so we view him from Will's perspective, and so we're shocked when he proves himself to actually be kind of brave and honourable and standing his ground in the face of certain death. And so, yeah, April also did mention in the chat that he does notice some things that the others don't. So Will and Garrett kind of grumble about him being like, ugh. But he does make some good points. Like, for one, I think one of them starts a fire and he puts it out and he's like, don't start a fire because we could be, people could find us. But yeah, and he joined the wall, I think, for similar reasons Jon Snow did. He probably had this idea of the wall being this, like, honourable order of knights defending the realm, not realising there was a bunch of, like, criminals and thugs, and it was falling to pieces. And also, Jon Snow had no prospects as a bastard. Waymar Royce was the third son, so from his point of view, he's not going to inherit any land, he's not going to inherit any wealth. Why not join an honourable organisation? It's the same reason why his older brother Robar, he's not the heir to Runestone, he's not looking at any land or income, so how can he make a name for himself? He can join Renly Baratheon and be on his Rainbow Guard, right? He gets to be in the new version of the Kingsguard. Glorious. And Renly's Kingsguard is delightfully gay. Everyone has cloaks that are striped with the different colours of the rainbow, and every member of the Kingsguard is a different colour. So Robar is Sir Robar the Red, and he has blood red armour. Sir Aemon Kai is Aemon the Yellow. Brienne is Brienne of Tarth, of course, is Brienne the Blue. I'm going to look up the others, actually. I think Gaiard Morrigan is Gaiard the Green. Let me just double check. So yeah, Loras Tyrell is the Lord Commander. We have Robar the Red, Aemon the Yellow, Gaiard the Green, that's right. Okay, Sir Parman Crane is Parman the Purple. How convenient that they've all been given the colours that correlate with the first letter of their first name. George loves alliteration, and so do I. Lord Bryce Caron the Orange. Okay, cool. Of course, I say delightfully gay, but jokes aside, apparently George had no idea that the rainbow was associated with the gay rights movement. So when he had like a gay king have a bodyguard, an organisation of bodyguards called the Rainbow Guard, it wasn't intentional. Which is probably a good thing, because if it were deliberate, it'd be so absurdly on the nose. God, as Robar the Red. However, he fails to protect his king from Melisandre's shadow assassin. That's a weird looking shadow. It looks is that a crown? Is that shadow wearing? Oh, has that shadow got like a sharp jaw? That shadow looks suspiciously like Stannis. Interesting. So this was cool. I basically I got my Stannis character and I made him a bit longer because I wanted him to like really grow and be long. So I made a longer Stannis and then I filled him in black to give him a shadow effect. Then I had him rise from the bottom and kill off Renly, who's got the little jade. I think Renly might be a bit too thick. Like he's a bit too wide. I think he needs to be taller. I think the wideness is fine. I think I might need to make a taller Renly, but there we are. From Melisandre's shadow assassin, and is slain by the furious Loras Tyrell. Back in the Vale. Yeah, then angry Loras coming in. See, I always found that weird that Loras Tyrell just outright kills two nobles. Like he's in love with Renly, and his first instinct is that these two knights have like killed him, I think, or at least let the killer go, and he's furious and he outclasses them. He just cuts them both down. So I get the emotional side of it. You know, he's in a red rage. He's only like 16 too, so it doesn't have a handle on his emotions. But even so, he kills two, not just random soldiers, two noble-born knights, and he gets away with it. Like, dude, you killed a Royce. And who else did he kill? I think he kills Aemon Kai. So he kills a member of House Kai. It's like, dude, you just murdered two important noble sons. Damn. Loras Tyrell. Back in the Vale, Jon insists that Lysa Arryn joins the war to support her nephew Robb Stark, but to no avail. So yeah, let's talk about this. Let me know in the chat. Why do you think, and in the comments if you're not watching this live, why do you think Bronze Jon wanted to join the war on the side of Robb Stark? Right, because Catelyn was trying to convince Lysa to join, come on, the North, the Riverlands, the Vale united, let's overthrow the Lannisters and so on. But Lysa didn't, because of course she was working on behalf of Littlefinger and they had different plans. But why was Bronze Jon trying to convince her? Why do you think that is? Is it just that Bronze Jon is meant to be this like gruff, haughty, honourable man who's like, no, we should join him because the Lannisters are bad and he's a good kid revenging his father and blah blah blah? Because there's no blood reason for it. He's not like, he hasn't got any marriages with House Stark. I just read what's going on with his wrinkles. I made a little mistake there. That's a shame. Yeah, Boombler said, as silly as the concept of a rainbow guard is, seeing a king with 7 bodyguards all with different colours would actually be cool. Yeah, that's I mean, to be fair to the show, it tried a little bit. They did give Brienne bluish armor, right? So they tried a bit. But yeah, the idea of him having like knights with like different color, like a red one and a yellow one and a purple one, all like that is kind of cool. I don't know if it could translate to screen, but yeah, it's cool. Considering George R. R. Martin has been solidly leftist in his politics for decades, I sincerely doubt he didn't know that. Honestly, I don't know why he would lie about it though. Like George doesn't strike me as someone who'd be like, oh no. If he were doing it intentionally, he'd say it. He'd be like, oh yeah, Renly's gay, so I gave him a rainbow guard because that's a symbol of gay rights back in the day. It still is, but like it was back in the day. The rainbow flag. Like, why would he hide that? Why would he pretend it was an accident if it was like a random thing for him to do? I think he genuinely didn't realize it. I don't know. George gives me the impression of like he was born a boomer. He's always been born a slightly out of touch boomer who doesn't quite. He's like well-meaning, but he doesn't quite know everything. Like he's always been a boomer. He's like, rainbow flag? What's that got to do with gay people? That's just the rainbow. Also, I don't think I'd call George R. R. Martin solidly leftist based on his blog posts. I think he's very much a kind of liberal Democrat, maybe left-leaning liberal. I wouldn't call him an outright leftist. Maybe in his younger days, as a Vietnam conscientious objector and so on. But based on some of his recent blog stuff, I'd say he's more of a kind of centre-left liberal guy. What? That's not even a plane. That's like a helicopter. What the hell? What was that? Hold on a sec. Holy shit, there's a helicopter out my window. The CIA are onto me. No. Georgia sent his HBO goons to take me out. For saying wins isn't coming out. The time this live stream's been going on, agents have been assembling in America and rushing over the sea. Oh god, they're gonna grapple down now. The curtain's shut, the windows are shut. If I stay quiet, they're not gonna find me. Shh, everyone, quiet. It's so loud. Okay, I think I'm safe. I think the HBO goons aren't gonna kill me. Winds is definitely coming out, guys. I promise. Winds is happening. I can't wait for it. I think the helicopter's going away now. There we go. It worked. Whew. Got me scared there. Okay, let's continue. I'm doing a bit, but like it's still really loud. Like, is it just circling in a... Okay, it is actually going away now. So Arryn joins the war to support her nephew Robb Stark. But I also haven't drawn Lysa before. This is my. I was like doing the classic animating. I typed in Lysa's name and I was like, how have I not drawn Lysa before? What the hell? But I guess I've never needed to. So she's described as being quite thick around the waist. So I made her slightly thicker than Catelyn, and I've given her very like dark eye rings to show that she's very kind of. The darker under the eyes is either representing their age, or if they're young, the kind of instability of some sort. Same with like the shade under the eyelids, showing her that she looks a little bit crazy. To no avail. After she's secretly murdered by Lord Peter Baelish. So I did consider. So when I had the previous Arryns being thrown out the moon door, I had the little man screaming sound effect, the whole ah. But I didn't do it for Lysa because she's specifically described as not screaming when she's pushed. Right? She's pushed and she just falls back and it's silence because she's like so stunned that she can't even scream, which I always thought was really cool, that she's just, he pushes her, she gasps, disappears, and then she's gone, and it's like, oh, I always thought that was really cool. In the show, it's kind of goofy when Lysa gets pushed and she has like her arms all the way over her head and she's like shaking them like a Looney Tunes cartoon and she's going ah. I was like, okay, that's a bit goofy. Man's being goofy. Who becomes Lord Protector of the Vale. Oh, another fun little fact. If you're thinking, hold on, why doesn't Littlefinger have a pointed chin beard? That's because when he marries Lysa, she specifically tells him to shave the chin beard because she doesn't like it. But I think after she dies, he starts growing it back. House Royce gathers 5 other nobles to form the Lord's Declarant. So yeah, I think I might as well go through the Lord's Declarant so you know who they are. Not to be confused with Quinn the GM's Lord Declarant. He's forming his own Lord's Declarant of A Song of Ice and Fire fans who like the Muppet Tullies and want to overthrow me for daring to criticise the Muppet Tullies and saying that their names are stupid. It gathers 5 other nobles to form. So the Lord's Declarant, Bronzion is the leader. We have this guy, Lord Benedar Belmore, who's considered sort of a fat, goofy man. We have Lord Eon Hunter. I think he's Eon Hunter. Or Gilwood Hunter. He might be Gilwood. I think he's Lord Gilwood Hunter. Here we have Simond Templeton, who is looking slick. And in the background we have the Baelish, who becomes Lord Protector of the Vale. House Royce gathers 5. In the background we have Horton Redfort and Lady Anya Waynwood. And I'll go into... I'm thinking of maybe doing like an entire video about the Lord's Declarant. That could be quite fun. But Littlefinger has plans for each and every one of them. No, I think it might be more fun to just do like an animated video detailing Littlefinger's master plan, like every step of it. And then I can go into more detail. But I'll talk about the Lord's Declarant a bit later. I'm sorry, that I don't know if you can hear that, and I do apologise, but that helicopter is still circling. Like, it's still loudly circling. I'm going to look out the window. It's like hovering, unless I'm going insane because it's dark, obviously. But looking out the window, it's like hovering high above something. Bro, it's over. They're onto me. I've already apologised. What more do they want? If you hear the front door break open, then pray for me. Pray for me. Was to form the Lord's Declarant, dedicated to removing Littlefinger from power. They gather their forces to blockade the Gates of the Moon. So yeah, the Gates of the Moon is this castle. It's kind of like the second Arryn castle. It's really cool. So you have the Eyrie high up in the sky, and you have to make your way through mountains, and there are several castles in the way. So there's one called Stone, one called Sky, one called Moon, or something like that. Yeah, I think Moon, Stone, and Sky are the 3 castles. So like you have to siege these castles and then keep going north and then siege the next one, and you're going upward. So like the Eyrie has a huge advantage. That's the reason why it's impregnable. But the first castle of this journey is called the Gates of the Moon. So you have to get past this one to proceed onwards and upwards. And the Gate of the Moon is usually held... It's not an ancestral position, it's granted by the Lord Arryn. So Lord Arryn will be like, my brother can be the keeper of the Gate of the Moon, or my uncle, or my best friend, or my son, or one of my Lord's Bannermen, or the son of one of my Lord's Bannermen, right? It's a random, it's whoever they want it to be. Or myself, or they might be like, I am the keeper of the Gate of the Moon. And we'll talk a little bit about why that's important later. But yeah, the Gate of the Moon also acts as like the winter castle of the Arryns. So the Eyrie is like the palace, the grand palace where they live most of the time. But when winter hits, they can't afford to be that high up because it's too cold, and it's too difficult to bring food and resources up the mountain in those conditions. So they go down south to the Gate of the Moon, and that's where they spend the winter. And force Littlefinger into surrender. And actually, I think I might as well... no. And eventually, a meeting is held. Lord Royce wants to kick the Lord Protector from power and take Robert Arryn as a ward in Runestone. After Selyn Corbray dares to draw steel against Baelish... Wait, I will quickly answer some super chats because I've been leaving them. I apologise. one monitor. I need to get a second monitor soon. My goodness. Thank you for the super chat from Vanderman, who says, I'm back from my trek to get my mail. Have you missed my milk-related questions? Be honest. Vandal, I answered both of them in unnecessary detail. Trust me. I didn't know where you were going with it. Now that I do, I'm ashamed of myself. But I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't go back for seconds. You know what I'm saying? Boomblur, thank you for the super chat from Boomblur, who says, where can I join Quinn's Lord Declarant? You'll have to hit the man up on Twitter or Discord or something if you want to join a Lord Declarant against me. But am I the only one who thinks the Muppet Tullies is stupid? Please don't. Is there anyone else in the chat who's like, yes, they're stupid, they're not funny, and they bring the reader out of the story, and they're going to bring viewers out of the TV show when they pop up? I don't want Sir Kermit fucking Tully rocking up being like, yeah, let's go to King's Landing. Come on, guys. We gotta march. We gotta overthrow the Aegon II. Yeah. I don't want any of that. Nonsense. I don't want any of it. You hear me? Okay. What else have I missed in the chat? What have people been talking about? The rainbow flag is also an important symbol in Catholic mythology. That's where he got the rainbow from. Yeah, because the rainbow... The reason why Renly has a rainbow guard is because the rainbow is associated with the faith of the seven, I think, where you have there are 7 colours associated with the faith, and they're basically the colours of the rainbow. Also, the rainbow flag used to be like... It wasn't always about the gay movement or gay rights. It did become that eventually, but I can't remember what it was before, but it had a more general... like a broader thing. Everyone's saying the feds got tired of the late Lord Haven, so they're coming to get him. Yeah. Haven talked about Vietnam War for 5 seconds and CIA already cut the helicopter. Yeah, I literally was like, George was a conscientious objector, and like 5 seconds later, like a helicopter just like loudly buzzing overhead. I'm like, oh fuck. What else? Flippy raises a good point. Not a super chat, but it's a good point, so I'll bring it up anyway. Flippy said, there are distant Stark cousins in the Vale that Catelyn mentions as being potential heirs for Robb over Jon. Yeah, because Robb is like, I need an heir, and at this point they believe that Bran and Rickon are dead, and Robb is thinking Jon Snow. Catelyn's like, I don't want it to be that goddamn bastard. But who else could it be? And they say, well, we have distant cousins, and they're the Royces, and maybe you can name a Royce as your heir. So maybe Jon's got some kind of link there. Maybe he's like, we should support Robb, but because we're related to the Starks, and if he falls in battle, we could take up the mantle. Thank you for the super chat from LJ, who says, why do you hate Joy? I don't hate Joy. I love Joy. What I hate are references to Muppets in A Song of Ice and Fire. I don't want references to Muppets in A Song of Ice and Fire. It's like, joking aside, right? If you want my genuine opinion, I obviously I pretend I'm more pissed off than I am. I am genuinely like, it's dumb, it shouldn't be in the books, because apparently it was meant to be placeholders, and he went back to it and went, can't be bothered to change them, so whatever. But it's like, I'm okay with it being in Fire and Blood. I just don't want it to be in the show. Like Grover Tully, I'm fine with Grover Tully. Oscar Tully, sure, but Kermit or Elmo would be too much. Like if there's genuinely like Kermit Tully, it's just there's going to be like 5 book fans being like, ha, yes, the reference, and then everyone else watching is going to be like, why the Kermit Tully? Why is there a Kermit Tully? You know, ridiculous. Or why is there an Elmo? Why do we need an Elmo Tully? Anyway, shall we carry on with the video? I'm getting distracted by Muppet Tully nonsense. I'll be sure to do a giant clickbait hate video if it appears in the show. House of the Dragon Season 2 is garbage, and here's why. And it's just like Kermit on the thumbnail. Anyway, An event Baelish himself cunningly orchestrated. The others are forced to concede and grant him 1 more year, much to Bronzion's fury. Yes, this is a very awkward audio edit, actually. Event Baelish himself cunningly orchestrated. Oh yeah, actually we need to talk about this before we talk about the bad audio edit. So quite ingeniously, Littlefinger has Lyn Corbray on his payroll. So Lyn Corbray being the second son of his older brother, Lord Lionel Corbray. Lionel and Lyn, why would you name your sons Lionel and Lyn? I don't know. But anyway, he says that all Lyn Corbray cares about is gold and fighting and boys. So he's like, which implies I'm giving you gold and I'm giving you boys as bribery, do I say? There's a big debate in the fandom. Does boys mean men or do they mean children? Is it like, he's a gay dude, so I procure him with handsome gay men to have fun with, as well as some gold? Or is it like boys like children, right? Like, is he doing a bit of an Epstein thing with Lyn Corbray? Definitely wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for Baelish, right? The whoremonger. Yes, he basically says, come along with the Lord's Declarant, be the most animated anti-Baelish voice, draw your steel and break guest right. Because when you draw your steel, then that gives Baelish, like, basically moral superiority. It gives him the high ground over everyone else. So he basically says, you came here to kill me, how dare you break guest right, especially after the Red Wedding. And all the Lords Declarant are like, no, we didn't mean to. And they kick Lyn Corbray out and we're like, we're so sorry. And Littlefinger says, okay, as an apology, you should give me 1 year to rule as Lord Protector. And after 1 year, if you don't like what I've done, kick me out. And of course, Baelish is giving himself time. He's buying himself time to get everyone on his side or to kill anyone who's opposed to him, right? And also by having Lyn Corbray be such an active, animated, anti-Littlefinger, noble, he becomes this sort of... He becomes like a honey trap, essentially, where anti-Littlefinger lords can go over to Lyn Corbray and be like, you're one of us, aren't you? Yeah, let's team up. And so Lyn Corbray will be basically the leader of every conspiracy, so he can inform Baelish of everything that happens. So it's an ingenious move, honestly. The others are forced to concede and grant him 1 more year, much to Bronzion's fury. Yeah, a bit of an awkward transition between, because the original sentence was grant him 1 more year as Lord Protector, much to Bronzion's fury. But for some bizarre reason, like when I listen back to the audio, my voice failed me when I said the word Lord Protector, so it sounds like this. And the others are forced to concede and grant him 1 more year as Lord Protector. It's just like that. It's like the word Protector just vanished from my mouth, and I was like, what the fuck? So I had to just cut it completely. I tried to re-record it, but the audio, something about the placement of my mic, it's not in a set place, so it just sounded weird and it didn't fit in the sentence. So I was like, I'm just going to cut that bit out and just say 1 more year. Though Littlefinger has plans to sway the other Lords Declarant, he knows Jon will remain fervently opposed to him. So what lies in the future for House Royce? Bronzion is dedicated to deposing Littlefinger, and has recently married his daughter Ysilla to Lord Redford's son, Sir Michael. So this is an interesting little factoid. We know that of the Lords Declarant, in fact, I'm going to use this opportunity to talk about them. So Littlefinger has plans for all the Lords Declarant. So first up, he... wait, let me just double check, actually. I don't want to get this wrong. He has a plan for each of them. Dum-bum-bum, bum-bum-bum, bum-bum. Okay, yeah, so Benedar Belmore. Oh, where did... Yes. So, first off, Baelish says that Lord Belmore, the guy in purple, over here on the left, he believes him to be corrupt. And that he can be easily bought. Meanwhile, he says that Simond Templeton... Littlefinger says he can easily befriend Simond Templeton, the guy on the right. Gilwood Hunter. Yeah, so Lord Eon Hunter suddenly died, and then Gilwood became the Lord, and apparently Gilwood's younger brothers were responsible for murdering their father, and that they are soon going to murder him. So Gilwood Hunter will soon be murdered by one of his younger brothers, according to Littlefinger, and when the younger brother takes over, then, because the younger brother being the heir, he hasn't got any kids, then Littlefinger will be able to befriend the new lord. And then Anya Waynwood, what he does with Anya Waynwood is he actually he pays off all her debts. He's also like massing grain in order to like basically deprive the Vale of grain and like increase the value massively. He stockpiled it, and so he's getting rich off of that. And so because of that, he can pay off Anya Waynwood's debts, and so he gets Waynwood on his side, he gets Templeton on his side, he gets Belmore on his side, and Gilwood Hunter hasn't been murdered quite yet. But that's 3 out of 6, which isn't too bad. And so, when Lyn Corbre's brother is... Baelish also gets Lyn Corbre's older brother, Lord Lionel Corbray, on his side by securing a marriage between Lionel Corbray and, like, the daughter of a really rich merchant, because the Corbrays aren't super rich. And the people who attend the wedding of Lionel Corbray are seen as being pro-Littlefinger, right? And because people refuse to come if they don't like Littlefinger. So by the end of A Feast for Crows, Benedar Belmore, Simon Templeton and Anya Waynwood all attend the wedding, which shows that they are now on Baelish's side. So now Baelish needs to get Royce on his side, Redfort on his side, and Hunter on his side. And like I said, he thinks Hunter will be murdered soon, and he'll probably befriend the new Lord Hunter. But Redfort and Royce, I think he doesn't have a plan for them. I think he said, I'm never going to get Bronzion on my side. And I think he said, like, Lord Redfort is old and could die soon, so I think he's implying Redfort could be, like, assassinated at some point. But clearly, of the Lord's Declarant, the Royces and the Redforts, two old honourable houses, are, like, teaming up against Littlefinger, and so they've secured a marriage alliance. He's recently married his daughter Isilla to Lord Bronzion's daughter Isilla, and then Michael Redfort, who isn't happy with the marriage because he kind of wanted to marry... what's her name? Maya Stone, the bastard daughter of Robert Baratheon, because he took her virginity, and I get the sense that they're lovers, maybe in love, but it never could have worked out because she's a bastard. Oops. Redfort's son, Sir Michael. With Lord Redfort being one of the Lords Declarant, this suggests some sort of alliance. Will the Royces and Redforts help Sansa in overthrowing Littlefinger, with Jon becoming the new Lord Protector of the Vale, like his ancestor Yorba? Okay, so which of these do you think to be true? Do you think that Bronzion and Littlefinger, that Bronzion and Redfort, whatever, will help Sansa kind of overthrow Littlefinger like in the show, and Bronzion will be like an ally of Sansa after she reveals herself to be Sansa Stark? Will they help in the fight against the others, utilising their ancient runic armour? So yeah, could we see Bronzion and Albar in the ancient runic armour, like actually fighting the White Walkers, and it turns out their armour is like really powerful, and then maybe they start mass producing it or something? Or will they simply be another victim of Baelish's machinations? Yeah, or will Bronzion be like a stepping stone for Baelish, like another person to tread on to get to the top, someone to deal with, some friction against Baelish so that he doesn't come across as too much of like a Gary Stu character? And will he be wiped out? Let's see what people are saying in the chat, shall we? Yeah, lots of people have this idea that Harry the Heir will die and wins, but why? Like, what's the point of his character if he's just going to die? Why bring him in just to kill him, you know? And sure, like, Littlefinger, people are saying he wants her for himself, so why would he marry her to Harry the Heir? But he wants to use her marriage to Harry to unlock the Vale and the North in one swoop, basically. Have two people in his pocket who rule over two Lord Paramounties. But, like, because, like, what would Littlefinger gain from murdering Harry the Heir? Like, what's the point? There would just be a new heir, like... Yeah, people saying Bronzion is a dead man. It's hard to imagine any, like, old, gruff, grizzled warrior character, like, not dying by the end of the series, but... Sansa's going to save Harry's life. Okay, April May says Sansa's going to save Harry's life, but who's going to try and kill Harry and why? If you're implying Littlefinger will, why would Littlefinger bother assassinating the heir to the Vale? Like, what does that gain him? That doesn't get him anywhere. House Tally video, yeah, in the future. You can find the extended version of this video, where I discuss the cadet branch of House Royce, on my Patreon. Yeah, so those on my Patreon I think have already watched it, and I've heard good things, they like it. It's basically 3 to 4 extra minutes of animated content. It's this video, and then on the end of it, like 3 to 4 extra minutes, talking about the cadet branch of House Royce, who are House Royce of the Gates of the Moon. And their sigil is actually awesome. It's like the Gate of the Moon is represented with the crescent moon behind a gate, but then you have on purple, but then you have like the bronze runic armor bordering the sigil. So it's a really cool aesthetic, honestly. I prefer it to the main Royce sigil. But here we have Lord Nestor Royce, who Littlefinger names as he's the Lord Steward of the Vale in the absence of Jon Arryn when he's Hand of the King. And he wants to marry Lysa Arryn, but she keeps saying no. She considers him to be a rock, and not in like a good way, but like in a kind of he's dumb as a rock. And then Littlefinger buys his loyalty by making him Lord of the Gates of the Moon. And if you remember what I said earlier, the Gates of the Moon, being the keeper of the Gates of the Moon is an ancestral position. Is not an ancestral position. It's a privilege that you are granted temporarily. So an Arryn will temporarily pick any random person. So Littlefinger breaks tradition and says, you get to be the lord of this castle, and your cadet branch will now always be the keepers of the Gates of the Moon, which makes them quite powerful. It goes against Arryn tradition, but, pisses off the Royces, but Nestor is quite insecure. He's jealous of the older branch, and he's like, yes, I've got some land for myself. Because I think they're an unlanded cadet branch, perhaps. And then his son is Sir Albar Royce, who has big black whiskers, who's I think is a bit of a dumb, gruff dude. And then there's this lady here, Miranda Royce, who's one of the most entertaining characters in the books, even though we don't know much about her. She's this very she's a very funny, gossipy, buxom, vivacious friend of Sansa, who's like very confident, and she's very merry, and she runs a bustling, vibrant household at the Gate of the Moon, and she befriends Sansa, and she's always making remarks and spreading gossip, and there's lots of fun, but she's also very shrewd. And Littlefinger even warned Sansa. He's like, Miranda Royce is a lot more intelligent than she lets on, or people suspect. She's quite aware. And in that extended video I also talk about what the plans are in the future for this cadet branch. So what they do in the books, what they will do in the future, and even Miranda Royce, what she could be up to with manipulating Sansa and so on. But yeah, I think this is an extended video, which means it's the second tier and above. So it's actually one of the cheaper tiers. It's this and the Hightower video are what you get when you purchase the second tier. So the lowest tier in the Patreon, I might as well run through it. The very lowest tier is just like, you get to join the Patreon Discord, which is lots of fun, and you do voice chat sessions with me. And yeah, someone asked about a face reveal in the chat. No, I've done plenty of face reveals in the Discord, if you care about that. But yeah, the next tier up is extended videos, like the Hightower video and the Royce video. And then the tier above that is exclusive stuff, like the history of House Dane. I have a whole Dane video on that. And then anything above that is stuff like art commissions and shouting out your name at the end of the video, and wallpapers, and having your art cameo in my videos, and all that good stuff. So I thought I'd just do a little plug for my Patreon at the end if any of you are interested. And it seems like people are. Since I uploaded this Royce video, I've got 4 new patrons, which is cool. I don't know if they're going to watch the extended version then dip, if they want to, that's fine, or hopefully they'll stay. But yeah, I won't do this with all my videos, honestly. It's like, if there's more to say but it's still separated from the main video, I'll do it. So I'm never going to be like the history of House Stark and then I lock off an entire section of House Stark for Patreon, because that's dumb. But if there's like a cadet branch, an extended piece of information that doesn't need to be in a main video that I can put on Patreon to give a little reward for my patrons, I'll do that. I think that's a sensible and respectful way of doing that kind of thing. But yeah, Someone said it's garish. Do you think the sigil, this Royce sigil is garish? The crescent moon, the gate, the purple. I don't know. I like it. I don't know. That branch of House Royce on my Patreon. To learn about former kings of the north, check out my videos on House Umber and House Bolton. Like and subscribe to Fancy Haven if you want more content like this. And check out... Why is Miranda missing hands? They're all missing hands. They don't have arms. None of them have arms. Yeah, there we have it. I will see what's going on in the chat, and if you have any more super chats, feel free to send them in. But I'll probably wrap up in like 10 minutes. But I'll have a quick chat with you guys before I go. Yeah, there's so much exciting stuff happening all over Westeros in terms of Winds of Winter. But one of the most exciting has to be the Vale. Like, everything in the Vale and the Eyrie is just... I'm so hyped because I have no idea where it's going. Sweet Robin, Harry the Heir, Littlefinger, Elaine Stone, Miranda Royce, Lothar Brune, Maya Stone. Like, I just want to know what's going on. And the Mad Mouse, yes. So Shadrich is in the Eyrie, looking for Sansa. Boombler says, I still think you're silly and would lose to Sahara Swift in the Battle of Wits. You're welcome, Boombler. They're so kind of you. You can insult me all you want, but at the end of the day, you're the one who's giving your hard-earned money to someone who would lose in the Battle of Wits to Sahara Swift. Should I sell Sahara Swift merchandise? Big blue cock and yellow. That could be fun. When is the next CK3 stream? I'm not sure. We'll have to see. Are you going to say you're going to go make dinner? No, I've already had dinner. This is a slightly later live stream than I usually do. See, everyone talking about Shadrich. Remember, there's that video on Quinn the GM's channel. It's him and I. It's taken from a live stream of ours, but we're talking about the early draft of Feast for Crows, I think, and so there are some notes, and he writes Sir Shadrich in the notes, and I think he's like, Sir Shadrich dies or kill Sir Shadrich, and then he crosses it out. But I think the idea is that Shadrich doesn't succeed in kidnapping Sansa. I think he gets killed, but maybe he prematurely reveals her or something, or maybe he just acts as a source of tension to keep the reader on their toes. But I don't think he's going to successfully take her. Fun stream. Thanks, Fancy Haven. Thank you, Greg. When will I do every Frey Explained? Hopefully this year. Again, it'll take a long time to make, so I want to get to the point in my channel where I can take an entire month off to do one video and be able to do that financially. Flippy said, I wonder if Hot D will explore a potential conflict with the Royces for Rhaena's storyline to give us something to do to justify them siding with the Blacks. Yeah, maybe. Maybe Rhaena will go to the Eyrie and we'll have to do some politicking with Sir Gerald Royce or Gerald Royce's son or something and persuade them to support Daemon. I'm hoping that's brought up when Jace tries to persuade Lady Arryn, where the Royces can be like, supporting Rhaenyra means that we have to support Daemon, and Daemon very obviously murdered Rhea Royce, so Did House Royce marry into House Stark? Yes, they did. They got some links. Okay, I think I'm going to wrap up. So thank you so much for watching. Like this video to help it spread. Comment after it's finished to help it spread too. And check out my channel. And yeah, if you want to support me via Patreon, go ahead. If you don't want to, that's fine. People keep asking for merchandise, and trust me, it's coming. I did some research today, and I've signed up with a certain website, and this week I'm gonna start working on designs, and hopefully I can get some samples in to see if it's good, and if I like it, I'll start promoting it, and I can have some fun Fantasy Haven merchandise. You could do plushies. This website lets you do plushies. Maybe for the future. Okay, take care, everyone. I'll see you next time. I don't know what my next video will be, but my next live stream will probably be the Royce theory iceberg, for sure. But we'll have to see. See you next time.